Oh, it's this stupid team, the Portland Trailblazers. Let's try and preview whatever the hell is going on here. Michael Bolton, I don't think you have the answers.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and hang on a second, I just got a text from Kelly Rowland come through on Excel. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Now, through to September 22nd, not long to go, all FanDuel customers who place a $5 bet get a 3-week free trial for NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free, and we are available on all platforms. So, double bang, and give the thumb up, and leave your comments down below. We are here still. Of course we are, haven't gone anywhere. We're taking applications for the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl, and honestly, most of you who apply are going to get in. Very, very few of you will not get in. We still have, I think there's 550 people that have applied so far. We currently have 1,200 spaces across the 3 different formats. I think we already had 400 people in, so we are getting close to the limit. And honestly, if we just get overwhelmed with responses, I might just expand and we do more. That's possible, but get in, choose what leagues you want, 3 different options, head-to-head, categories, head-to-head points, and rotisserie, 12-team leagues, slow drafts, beginning start of October. Invites have not gone out. In the next few days, you'll start to see some invites trickle through, so be on the lookout. But they have not gone out yet. And that's where we're at with the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl. But we are talking Portland Trailblazers here. We are talking a team that I would hope we got a little bit more clarification on what on earth is going on and what they're going to do, and will they make any moves, and why is this team filled with players that feel good, or the team should be good, yet they're terrible. I know the common sense thing is that they're going to be the worst team in the NBA. They are that much better than Brooklyn and Washington, and you could make the arguments of Detroit and all that sort of stuff. Yes, they play in a tougher Western Conference, but there is legitimately good players on this team. They got a bottom 2 coach in the NBA, which is a problem, and they're in a tough conference. So there's difficulties there, but there are, again, a team that's, is there too many good players for the roles they need to be in and the development they need to do? That is a concern. And that's the sort of stuff we got to try and figure out and dish through here from a fantasy perspective. Let's have a look at what I think is their projected starting lineup, but who knows? And I've gone back and forth on this. I did a projected lineup for them about 4 weeks ago, and I think it was different to this. I'm projecting at the moment, and I don't know. I just don't know. I'm going with Scoot Henderson, Anfernee Simons, Shaden Sharpe, Jerami Grant, and Deandre Ayton. But Denny Avdia very, very easily could start. But who does Avdia start over? Scoot Henderson, their number 3 overall pick, the guy that they felt comfortable trading Damian Lillard away because they drafted him. Does Avdia start over Shaden Sharpe, their top 7 pick from 2 years ago, whose second season was ruined by an injury? Does he start over Anfernee Simons, probably their team's best player? Does he start over Jerami Grant, the guy that they've paid too much money to and they think is good, but maybe he's not that good? I don't know. If I was them, I want to see, what does Scoot do as a starter? What can Scoot and Shaden do together? I don't know where Simons fits in on this, but he's still only like 25. I wouldn't care about not starting Jerami Grant because he's incredibly overrated. But they probably will. But they should be doing, are they moving Ayton? Are they moving Simons? Are they moving Grant? I don't know. So while this is one iteration of what a starting lineup could look like, they've got 6 players who probably get starters minutes, like Avdia is the other one here. I'm not even including this year's number 7 overall pick, Donovan Clingan. He won't be starting. But I don't know how they're going to do it. This is what I would try to do, but it's not clean. It's not comfortable. If it was actually what I would do, this is me trying to guess what they will do and what they could do, I would start Avdia, like I said. But I don't think that... I would start Abdi over Grant, but I don't think there's any real hope of them doing that. Not that I'm necessarily hoping for it, but I think it's what makes the most sense. Let's take a look at some undervalued guys. Some might call them sleepers. I'll just call them undervalued players. Looking at the different formats and the rankings and the ADPs across different sites. And I will start with the snowman, Deandre Ayton. Ayton was ridiculous for a stretch last season. Actually, that's not true. Let's rephrase that. Deandre Ayton was ridiculous in 2 stretches last season. Ridiculously bad early on in the year, and then ridiculously good later on. I am talking top 5 good for multiple weeks through end February, middle of March. He was unstoppable. But who is he? Is he on this team? What do they do with the centers? Does he take a step back when other guys are healthy? I don't know. Will Portland's inclement weather stop him getting to the arena? Not sure. Will the coal in his eyes fall out? That's possible too. For category leagues, I think that Ayton, with an ADP of 79 on ESPN, that's value there. This was a man absolutely cranking as a top 10 guy who, on a per-game basis, if you're not going to be super worried about the risk of sitting, or you're being traded, he's probably a top 40 player. I think there's a lot of value in that. In points leagues, he's ranked at 121. That is honestly, what are we talking about? He's ranked at 121 on ESPN points leagues, the new updated rankings. What? For reference, their default is a 10-team points league. 121 suggests he would not be a starter in an ESPN default points league, which, of course, is silly, wrong, blatantly incorrect. Yeah. His ADP is 79. I think there's value possibly in Ayton across all formats. His Yahoo rank is 63. His Fantrax ADP is 60. But that's getting to the area where it's not unbelievably good value. It's good value, but it's not unbelievably good value. Ayton is 26. He played 32 minutes a night and did this with only 21 usage. He averaged 17 and 11. He's never giving you an assist, and he's a terrible shot blocker. 0.8 blocks, 1.6 assists. But 82 from the line and 57 from the field. Now, we can sit here and hope and go, man, what if the man who's built like he's carved out of granite uses his body to his advantage and pushes through and gets free throw attempts? That ship sailed. Let me rephrase. It might not be sailed, but we do not hope, we do not expect that he will all of a sudden decide to play tough-ass basketball and draw a free throw. One of the worst drawing... I think didn't he go for 10 games without getting a single free throw? He never takes a 3. He doesn't pass. He doesn't protect the rim. He is one of my, and I say this term very, very cautiously, because the word I'm about to use is not real. I don't know the man, but I hate watching this guy play. He's up there. He's big man Cam Thomas. I hate watching Cam Thomas play. I hate watching Deandre Ayton play. I hate it. What is he doing? But he was unbelievably efficient, field goal wise, big scoring, big rebounding, and the opportunities that he did that without even getting big usage. And I don't think he necessarily gets big usage. He's just an incredibly frustrating player for me to watch. Anfernee Simons, I was really interested in getting him around the 70-60 mark last year in drafts. I thought he was going to step up big usage with no Damian Lillard, and then he tore his thumb ligament in literal game 1, and that ruined the year for him. We now move into the situation again this season where I go, where is Simons going to be? Because he plays the same position as both Shaden Sharpe and Scoot Henderson, but he's still better than both of those guys. He's 25. He should beat these ADP numbers. ESPN ADP's got him at 101, which for category leagues and points leagues is insane. He will beat that unbelievably easily. But he can get hurt at any point. He can get fake injured at any point, which he has the last 2 years, plus the real injuries. He's 25. He played 34 minutes and 28 usage last season. Didn't even hit 30 usage. He averaged 22.5 points with almost 3.5 threes. He's never a big rebound guy, 3.6, but 5.5 assists is solid enough. He probably can be a guy that plays off ball next to Scoot, but they have been playing him at point guard. It's also all over the shop. Now, the defensive stats are absolutely embarrassing from Simon. 0.5 steals and 0.1 blocks. that is putrid, and he's never been that bad. And it's almost the reverse of like the unbelievable shot blocker, the Jaren Jackson, Miles Turner going from 2.7 to 2 blocks. Like, that's really great. 2 blocks is still really good, but it's not 2.7. Like, Simons still might be one of the worst defenders and one of the worst defensive stat accumulators in the NBA. But he could average 0.8 steals with 0.5 blocks and still be the worst at it, while almost doubling. Well, literally, he could double his numbers from last season and still be terrible. But that still just adds that little bit of extra onto fantasy. He doesn't become good. He doesn't become average. He doesn't become below average. He becomes terrible still. But it's an improvement. He's awesome at the line. 92%. 43 from the field. He should be that mid-round player. But there's just so many uncertain things about what Simons brings just because of the way this team is structured and everything about how they are and where they're going. We've got another undervalued player to talk about in a sec, but today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. You've heard us talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because they are America's #1 sportsbook, and they've been out here supporting us for a very long time. And now they've got a new offer for you. I don't know why I said new that way, but I did. And that's okay. Because we're here just to celebrate the fact that up until September the 22nd, about 3 days from now, you can still get an awesome deal. If you're a FanDuel customer, you place a $5 bet, and you get a 3-week free trial for NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. With your YouTube TV base plan, you can watch all out-of-market Sunday afternoon NFL matchups for that 3-week free trial. You need your Google account, a valid form of payment, and of course you can go in and cancel that free trial at any point. So go to FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook, and don't forget to gamble responsibly. So the other guy that I have on the undervalued player list is Sterling Henderson, old Scooter, who, this is a almost universal truth across fantasy basketball, is that players in their second year, people forget. They write them off. People are already saying, the Hornets, what a great move. They went against consensus. They chose Brandon Miller, clear W. Scoot's a bum. Someone will comment on this right now. If you believe it, I know you're there watching. Comment it now. Scoot is a bum. Someone will say it. Even unprompted, they would have said it. Scoot averaged like 11 assists per game over the last 10 games of the season, I think it was, or close to that. And he really struggled. He did. He struggled at portions of the season through uncertain role. Rookie guards suck. He was on the bench. He hurt his ankle all over the shop. With also a terrible coach. And then people think like, well, he's done. He's never been better again. But this is where players and second-year guards take big steps forward. And this has not been adjusted. Scoot, for category leagues, is an ADP of 136. Well, that's just his Yahoo ADP, 136. He's ranked 175, which, again, on Yahoo, that suggests if you're in a 14-team league, you just leave Scoot alone, you don't even draft him, which, of course, is crazy. ESPN's category rank has him at 177. What on earth are we doing? That is, again, a 14-team league guy that sits on a waiver wire. Absolutely not. For points leagues, Yahoo doesn't separate, but 175 rank, ADP 136, it's just unbelievable value. And the new ESPN points league ranks that came out have him at 138. Just incredible value. Absolute thievery to be getting him that late. Scoot is only 21. He's 6'3". He only played 28 minutes last season with 27 usage. He averaged 14 points, 3 rebounds, 5.5 assists in those 28 minutes. 0.8 steals and 0.2 blocks is not quite Anfernee Simons, but it's not great. He shot 39 from the field and 82 from the line. The reason he was so bad at shooting from the field was finishing at the rim. He was bad at finishing at the rim. And I think largely that was a lot of self-created stuff, which is harder. He didn't have guys creating a lot of gravity around him, which made it harder. But part of the concern with Scoot is, I don't know if he can shoot coming out of the G League Ignite. And as we know, nearly every player coming out of G League Ignite improves their three-point shooting in the NBA. And Scoot was one of them. He was at 33%. He might not jump to 36 this season, but he could. And what if his rim numbers go from almost literally the worst in the NBA to being good or average? What if he plays instead of 28 minutes, 31 minutes? What if he gets and is that primary distributor and averages 8 assists? Again, you think that's crazy. He averaged so many assists at the end of last season. And this is a guy that is basically free at the moment in drafts. Basically free. So I love it. On this absolute disaster team, and I say disaster not because, again, they're bad players, but because the team is structured disastrously because, bad coach. Is there anyone that's overvalued? Well, I'm glad you asked, because there is, yes. Jerami Grant is still rated in the wrong position to me. I don't love what his value sits at. I have absolutely zero faith in this man to play or to perform at all. He's ranked 94th on Yahoo. He's ranked 99th on ESPN, and that's in category leagues. And his ADP on ESPN in points leagues sits at 79, and his points league rank is 121. I want nothing to do with Jerami Grant, really. Jerami Grant used to be this great 1-1 player, and if you don't remember what a 1-1 is, you hit a 3, you get a steal, you get a block. He rebounded well, and now he does nothing apart from score. He's also 31. He wants to live in Portland and get lots of money. And you know what? Well done. That is an unbelievable job that you have done from taking money from bad teams and jacking up shots and not caring about anything else. Good for you. 34 minutes, 26 usage. You averaged 21 points, 3.5 rebounds for the power forward on this team. 0.8 steals for a defensive whiz. 0.6 blocks. 45 from the field. 82 from the line. And if he has a season where the three-point shooting drops below 40%, well, it is going to be very, very ugly. Does he even stay on this team? Look, I don't know why anyone would want Jerami Grant in a trade given his contract or the level of player that he is. Can he actually turn it back around to become an unselfish, defense-first type of player? I don't think so at this point. Taking him at some of those ADP spots or ranking spots is ridiculous to me. 79 on ESPN, that's like I'd rather set my ass hair on fire. That is insane to me to be looking at him at that spot. We go to a man that I am going to put under the lens a little bit later on, and that is Shaden Sharpe, who on ESPN I think is overvalued. Now, of course, ADPs are not what do you call them? Format specific. That's the word I'm trying to get across. But when we talk about on ESPN that his ADP is 105, I wouldn't touch him in category leagues there, and I wouldn't touch Shaden Sharpe in points leagues at 105. Last season, he started. We saw improvements. He had an abdominal injury, but we didn't see like huge stuff. He's 6'5". He's a wing. He played 33 minutes with 23 usage, 16 points with almost 2 threes, and he had a stretch where he was playing like 42 minutes a night when Brogdon and Simons and Scoot were all out, and he looked better in that area, but there was incredible inefficiency there, and then the injury struck. 41% shooting only, like Scoot, like Simons, absolutely no defense. 0.9 steals, 0.4 blocks, only under 3 assists, despite the big minutes in the role. And we're going to dig into him a little bit later on. But at 105, there is just no way that I am indulging in that garbage. The last player who is Deni Avdija, who I just don't know. I don't know what to make of Avdija. They obviously put money into him as a trade piece. He was solid enough last season, but most of his good value came when guys were out and then the ball was put in his hands. And when we go through this team, where does he possibly fit in the offensive hierarchy? Is he ahead of Simons, Scoot, Sharpe, Grant, Ayton? The answer should be no for all 5 of those guys. So what is he, the 6th offensive option? Part of his appeal, Avdija as a player, is defense and ball handling. But when's he going to handle it when there are Scoot and Simons on this team? Or even Sharpe, who gets the ball in his hands? He's a rank for category leagues. Avdija is 92 on ESPN. His ADP on Fantrax is 111, and his points league rank is 102. I'm just, not convinced that he plays the role big enough to justify that, or that he gets enough usage or plays enough minutes or anything. Like, he played only 30 minutes a night with 20 usage last season. On a much worse team, by the way. So maybe he gets 30 minutes, but maybe he doesn't even get 20 usage. He averaged 15, 7, and almost 4 assists. He fits in perfectly with only 0.8 steals and 0.5 blocks and shot 51 and 74. And he had a really hot streak of shooting about 60% from 3. which is when, for some reason, everyone decided to focus on the Wizards at that period and just determined that Avdija was this awesome player. Mind you, the Wizards traded him away in the middle of a rebuild on a very, 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 very friendly team contract, and were like, we love that breakout, but absolutely not part of what we're doing. So that to me is a red flag. And there are other reasons behind that, but that's a little red flaggy to me. And I just don't believe that the value that people ascribe to what he did last season is actually a true representation of what he did, or also that it's going to carry over here and he's going to establish himself as a second usage player, third usage player, a ball handler with all these other guys around. I don't see it. I am down on Avdija. I've always been down on Avdija compared to how he was compared. Oh, the next Luka Doncic. Oh, absolutely not. I think we're well aware of that now. And I don't fully believe in some of the stuff what people are expecting this season. On the other side of that, like Mike Schmitz, Draft Express guy, loves him. Deliberately target him, really believes in his value. I think Denny actually is a really, really solid enough connecting piece. Last season, we didn't even know that he was going to start for that Wizards team. People were guaranteeing that Corey Kispert would start. And I said, I think the fit of Avdija between Poole and Kuzma is great. Low usage guy, moves the ball, and he's a great option on a solid enough team that needs that guy. But this isn't that team. There's a million usage guys. Like, how does he do enough unless players are moved? I honestly don't know, and he is someone that I believe that I will be not really doing much with on my fantasy teams for this upcoming season. So let's take a look if we've got any breakout candidates on this team. Again, this is a young team, so you'd hope that we get some of them. But do we? Well, let's see. Because, I do think that there are opportunities for both Scoot and Shaden Sharpe to have breakout seasons. Like, Sharpe was fine last season, but he heads into year 3, and we're going to, again, take him under the lens. And Scoot, everyone just considers him useless and a bum. And I don't think that's true. And I think that it was a really bad situation for him in a rookie season with injuries, and I thought he showed enough. I would have loved for him to do more. And I'm not saying that I think he's perfect or anything like that. If you had to ask me now, would I still have Scoot at 2 over Brandon Miller? I probably would. I'd have a Men Thompson over them both, yes. But it's a closer gap than what I had in the past. And I really do want to see where this goes for these guys. I'm very interested to see what Scoot does, and hopefully is a better situation. But also, it might not be a better situation because some of the problems still exist. Shout out Chauncey Billups. So what are the risks for this team as we head forward into the season? Well, it is trades because Simons, Rob Williams, Deandre Ayton, like, do they get moved? Jerami Grant, who comes back? How does that change the roster? Do they want to look at Sharpe, or do they want to look at Scoot more? Or do they want to look at them both together? Because they're not benching Simons. So how do they make that decision? What happens at center? They heavily invested number 7 pick in Donovan Clingan, who plays the same position as Deandre Ayton, and they almost certainly cannot play together. There's also Rob Williams who exists on this team. Is he ever going to be healthy? Probably not. But do they move on from him? I don't know. I think it could also be back to that scenario I talked about with Scoot, where it's just mix and matching off the bench, on the bench. You're in this group, you're in that group. You're starting, your minutes are up, your minutes are down. Williams, Ayton, Clingan, Avdija, Grant, Scoot, Sharpe, Simons. And then chuck in like these other guys coming off the bench who had flashes. Tamani Kamara was awesome last season, but where the hell does he play? Delano Banton flashed a lot. Where does he play? There's just so many different ways that things can go sort of tits up on this team that it is a frustrating squad to try and figure out, as you can probably tell by my voice. So that'll bring us now to, okay, I've built it up. I've built it up a lot. We are going under the lens, and we are taking a look at Shaden Sharpe, a player that we never saw play in college. Came in and played a weirdish role as a rookie on a team with Damian Lillard. And this season was moved into a larger role and got hurt pretty quickly. And we still don't really know what he is as a player. He's athletic, very athletic, but I've seen him blow like crazy dunks. Even though he just insane. Like, why did you miss that dunk? He's athletic, but ridiculous defensive mishaps. Can he shoot? I don't know. If you look at like that best offensive comparison for him from Crafted NBA from last season, like Jake LaRavia, that should send shudders up your spine. What about defensively? Bobby Portis. Oh, yeah, the terrible defender Bobby Portis. Yeah, great. Like, none of that stuff is great. His true shooting number, horrendous. His free throw rate, encouraging, and I do like that part of it. But creation to turnover percentage, really bad. Passing, bad. 3-point attempt rate, mid. Shooting, mid. Defensive stuff, like obviously, like for a guy that is as good as he is athletically, that rim defense number's horrible. Even though he contested a lot of shots, he's not blocking them. He's not stopping people from doing anything. His defensive numbers are horrendous. And then we get to the problem of that radar chart there on the right-hand side that shows the percentage of plays. And he had like 20 or 30% of his plays as a pick-and-roll ball handler. Remembering that he did most of his damage early in the season, that's the only time he played. And that was when Simons was out. And then there was talk that he was going to come back at the end of the year. He never did, of course, because why would he? Because this is, again, if you want to talk Blazers, they and Utah are the team that will just pull the pin on everyone early, and the Blazers have done it for, 3 straight years now? Or is it 2? Well, I don't know. It's a long time. So that percentage of plays as a pick-and-roll ball handler, now you could suggest that, okay, if you're playing more with Simons and Scoot, then he won't do as much pick-and-roll ball handling stuff, and he'll do more off-screen work or cutting, and that might actually help some of his shooting numbers not having to create as much, and that is totally possible. But maybe those even minuscule assist numbers fall even further. And we still just... And the Blazers also don't. They just don't have an answer as to what he is. We'll start with that Darko graph on the right-hand side for this one. And this is where we get, like, you think I'm being negative, and I am, I guess. But, like, the positive side of this is his free throw attempt rate. Look at... Like, we're still, like, pushing up, but that is a big, big change to see the improvement in his free throw attempt rate. And that is one of the things that, as players go year 1 to year 2, 2 to 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, all the way through, to elevate yourself, you need to get more free throws. And he's not sitting at, like, awesome levels. But he was like at 15% for big chunks of his rookie season, and he like was pushing up to 23, 24% free throw attempt rate, which is good. You want to be getting 30, 35. You need to be absolutely elite, like 28, 29 to be very good. So he's on the way. I like that. The headshot plot here on the y-axis has finishing talent, so like how good you are at finishing at the rim. Your x-axis is box creation. These are percentile numbers. So box creation's a metric designed by Ben Taylor to show, like, using box score stats, like how much, not just traditional usage, but how much you are creating for your team through shots and for assists for others. And we've got a bunch of players here. These are the main perimeter guys on the team. So in the very, like, the top right, Anfernee Simons. Second highest finishing talent, highest box creation percentile. So he's doing a lot. And if he's not on this team, that is a lot that goes to others. But he's a pretty good finisher, better than everybody else. And he has a lot to do. Down the bottom of this graph, with really high box creation, is Scoot Henderson. Now, his finishing is horrible, and it was all season. That's one of the big problems with him. And I think that can jump way up. In the middle, you've got the 2 forwards in Avdija and Grant. Grant with better finishing than Avdija and slightly higher box creation. Avdija uses it through passing. Grant does it through chucking up shots. And then on the very left-hand side of this screen is Shaden Sharpe. The lowest box creation of all these guys, which again is taking into consideration creating shots for yourself and creating shots for others. He's the worst. And now we add Avdija into the mix and maybe more Scoot. And his finishing is fine, but he is ridiculously athletic. So why is he finishing worse than Denny and Grant and Simons? I think he can obviously be better as he gets more and more. But you would think the things that, when looking at Sharpe, you go, well, hopefully like this athleticism can turn into blocks. Can you be an athletic finisher and finish at the rim well? And the answer so far has been absolutely not. So far, I would say it's been non-functional athleticism for Sharpe in the NBA. And the last thing is the fantasy similarity radar chart. And this is where, again, let's go a little bit more positive, because the most similar shape, on a much lower scale, is Mikal Bridges. That's encouraging. And then it's Devin Vassell. Unfortunately, after that, it's Andrew Wiggins and Jalen Green. So it shows sort of, I guess, a range of outcomes. Like, can Sharpe push to be Mikal Bridges? I'd say that's probably unlikely. And that's Nets Mikal Bridges from last season. Could he be Devin Vassell, which would also be... that's not true from last season. That's for my Knicks Bridges projection. My bad. Can he be Bridges or Vassell this season? That would be an awesome outcome to be like a 70s, 80s sort of player. Or is he like an outside top 100 Andrew Wiggins, Jalen Green? And I think that's probably more likely, but that's the sort of player that he is. And that's where there are some interesting things that can go on with him. Let's look at some injury updates and concerns and guys we need to be worried about. And of course, we need to be worried about this entire team from a fake injury perspective. But last season, of course, Jerami Grant, the man who hasn't played an April game since April was invented, the man who's played about 4 March games in 4 years. We've always got to be careful of the Ides of March for Jerami. Now, if he miraculously goes to a team that's good, where he's not allowed to take as many shots, again, pretty unlikely. But if that happens, then maybe he does play through March and April with his fake knee injuries and whatever else is going on, pulled hamstrings. Shaden Sharpe had the abdominal surgery. He was allegedly ready to return, and of course he didn't. He will be fine for this upcoming season. Anfernee Simons, you know what? I don't even remember what the Simons fake injury was to end last season. It was a thumb injury to begin the year, but he came back, and I don't know what it was that took him out for the final 3-4 weeks of the year or whatever it was. So there's the tank risk. And then Rob Williams, of course, lasted, 6 games before hurting his knee. And there was talk that Rob would play a little bit more alongside old mate Deandre Ayton. He'd play as a power forward. Like, Williams is only 6'9". And he actually put up, in the limited time that he played, some decent numbers, Robbie. The Rock DJ played 20 minutes and 13 usage, 7 and 6 with 1.2 blocks and 1.2 steals, 65% and 78 from the line, which is all actually awesome. And if he played 24 minutes a night, that would actually be a 12-team category league guy that we need to get. But we can't trust him. They brought in Kling, and there is Ayton there, and I don't know how he gets 23 minutes. But if he does, we are running to add Rob Williams. If he played 30, he's a top 40 player, but that's never happening. And there's always the consistent knee problem. He probably ends up on a different team. At some point, maybe. Who knows? But it's not that his ability disappeared last season, because it was there. Those numbers are really good. It's just that that consistent knee, I think it was a patella tendon last season. It's a persistent thing with multiple knee injuries that we just can't overlook. Let's take a look at the Portland Trailblazers schedule. I don't know why I said it that way, but I did. Their schedule for the upcoming season, they've got 51 quality games. That's on the high side. They've got 13 back-to-backs. That is on the low side, which is great for the fake injuries of Simons and for Rob Williams' real injury and Jerami Grant, of course. But they won't care, because once we hit March and April, when they're bad again, they will just sit out. Maybe Ayton even joins that crew as well, because he played through most down the stretch also. For the playoffs, they've got just an alternating schedule. If you finish on March 23rd, they go 4-3-4. If you finish March 30th, it's 3-4-3. If you use Yahoo default, guess what it is? It's 4-3-4. And the ESPN default is 4-3-4-3. So they play 4, then 3, then 4, then 3, then 4, then 3. Down the stretch, which is fine. It's fine. It's not perfect. It's not as good as Sacramento's, who we did earlier today, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Let's take a look at some of the younger guys. And this is a team, unlike the Kings, that does have a bunch of guys who are under the age of 23 who are worth us talking about. And some of them we've spoken about already, of course. If you're new to this show and this series, that number next to these guys on the under 23 list is their Bazemore Dynasty ranking, which is like a 4 to 5 year idea of, if you look in a startup draft, how you would look at these guys. And I still have tremendous upside value placed on Scoot Henderson. I think he's still a top 25 dynasty asset who you will not have to pay top 25 value for. Because like I said, second year guards, people don't care. You're dead to me, my guy. Dead. So they don't care. I still think he's got great value. I've still got Shaden Sharpe, as much as I'm not fully convinced on Shaden, as a top 50 player. Donovan Clingan is going to be an interesting one. Now, he has got an absolutely tremendously fantasy-friendly stat set in a similar way that certain of us frothed Walker Kessler the year before. Now, obviously, a much higher pick than Walker Kessler, a better passer than Walker Kessler, but I've got him as a top 100 dynasty player, even though I don't love Donovan Clingan as a real-life player. His summer league numbers were so weird. He's 21, he's 7'2", he cannot jump. I don't think he's a very good finisher at all. What he does is protect the rim unbelievably well, because he is a huge man. Maybe there's some shooting there. He's a better passer than you think. I want to discount a little bit because, again, when you play for Connecticut, there are two sides to it. That your minutes might be kept down because your team is so good, but also the team is so good because the coaching is so good, and therefore some of your numbers get inflated just through the system. He only played 23 minutes a night. He had a foot injury at times, but they also just kept him back, and even in Summer League, he just looked like he couldn't go that much more. He averaged 13 and 7 in those 23 minutes. He averaged 2.5 blocks with 64% shooting. I think he averaged 4 blocks a game in Summer League. And this is where his fantasy value comes in. You get me rebounds, blocks, field goal percentage. Maybe he stretches and shoots. Maybe he passes. But I don't think he's ever going to be a 32-minute-a-night guy. I'm not sure about where his stamina goes, and I'm not sure about his defense. What about his finishing? Because he cannot jump. He's big. He just cannot jump. And that leads to concerns. So I was not as high on Klingon as others were. He's 21, so he's a little bit older as a rookie. And for this season, there's no clear path. There's no clear minutes because Williams and Ayton are still there. Jabari Walker is still under 23. He had some opportunities last season, but he just could not get anything going efficiency-wise. He played a little bit of backup center, which, given how the team is at the moment, he's not going to have to do. I've got him top 225. Rebounded okay at times, some double-digit rebounding games. He's 6'7" only, 24 minutes a game. He averaged 9 and 7, but no defensive numbers. Bad efficiency, doesn't pass. Shot the 3 ball like okay. I would have hoped for a little bit more. He was fine, but at the moment, I would suggest he probably just doesn't play every night. Avdiya's in there. You've got all the centers around. Jerami Grant's still there. I don't think we get much out of him. I got Ryan Rupert, who was a second-round pick last season, who barely played, and when he did, it was quite poor. I've got him as only a top 275 player. And then they've also got Bryce McGowans, who they brought in from Charlotte. He's on a 2-way. He's not even 22 yet, McGowans. He's got some scoring upside, but he will have games in April if he stays on this team where he is streamable for standard leagues because they'll sit everyone down and McGowans will come in and have a random 20-point game on 20 shots. I'm pretty sure that will happen. What are we going to talk about next? We need to go to talking about risk-reward players. You know that I did a lot of best case, worst case variance stuff this season, so that's where this part comes in. Who's the guy that I look at as a risk-reward guy? Well, it is back to looking at Scooter Henderson. Sterling had some significant variance in the numbers that he puts up. 79 head-to-head category league ranking spots with his variance. His points league variance was 5.6. Now, given where he's being drafted at 130, 140, or whatever that rank number is, that's actually, to me, on the actual low end of where he ends up this season. His best case is top 60, I think. It might be hard to get there, but I think that's his best case. And his worst case is probably 150th. Meaning when you're getting him at the end of drafts, you're almost doing it without risk. And lastly, who's over the hill? We'll give the brief explanation each time that once you hit the age of 29 in the NBA, decline usually starts. The rate at which that decline happens depends. There's only 2 guys on this team that fit that mold, and one of them is not even going to make the regular season roster. That's Devontae Graham. The other one is Jerami Grant, who is 31 and just does not belong on this team. Even though they love him and he loves Portland, and that's great, and he loves his shots and unaccountability. But that's why I'm even more concerned with Grant, because he already doesn't do anything defensively. He doesn't rebound. He doesn't pass. He's 31. What if that shot just drops off a little bit? What if he doesn't play 34 minutes on? He probably will, but we've already seen quite a bit of decline in his game, and there's more that's probably going to come. I think we covered most of the... Well, actually, you know what? Who we didn't cover on this team, and we'll just have a quick talk about him now. There's 2 guys here, actually, that I didn't cover that we probably should have, and one of them is the painter, Matisse Thybulle, who in the past has been Thybulle starting, let's stream him in and get steals and blocks, and he averaged 1.7 steals and 0.8 blocks in just 23 minutes. But his offense is really bad. Not as bad as Ryan Dunn's is going to be, but it's bad. He averaged 5 points with 1.2 threes and shot only 40% from the field. He's 28. Matisse, he's 6'5". There's no spot for him here. Denny Avdiya, Shaden Sharpe, these guys are going to get prioritized. Thybulle will probably be in the rotation, but I don't see how he's hitting the 23 minutes that he played last season. They should look to move on from him, but is his contract even considered a value? I'd say probably not. What about the rookie sensation, the second-round pick that came in the Lillard deal? Toumani Camara. He was great. Second round guy, defended his ass off. I thought he was awesome at it. He's already 24. He's 6'7", played a lot of power forward. 25 minutes a game, started the second half of the year. 7 points, 5 rebounds. The fantasy stats are not strong. And now he goes to a situation where he was starting, where he plays behind Grant and Avdia. And then there's the centers. And where does he look? Unless there are trades or fake injuries or real injuries, him even getting the 25 minutes is tough. Because how does it happen? As good as he was, there's no real significant upside in Camara as an offensive guy. I think defensively he could be really good, but where do the minutes come? And that leads me to another guy who showed flashes last season, but it's all worth thinking about when we're talking about the flashes the players put up. And no, I'm not talking about Chris Murray because he showed whatever the reverse of a flash was. A double trench coat. He was terrible, and I think he's a bad player and should not play minutes. But Delano Banton, the 6'9" point guard on his third team, who's not under 23, he's 25. He played 19 minutes a night with insane 26 usage. He averaged 10, 3, and 2.5. He racks up rebounds. He gets assists. He will score. He took 1 million shots. He played 1 million minutes down the stretch. He's an inefficient player, though. And for as good as he looked, and we loved grabbing him and streaming him through fantasy playoffs, he's not playing ahead of Scoot or Shaden or Simons. He's not playing ahead of these guys. Is he the fourth guard on the team? I guess maybe. But there's Thibault. Avdia gets minutes. Where do they fit Camara in there? There's another guy. We saw the big numbers, and you can use that as an argument against Scoot as well. I get that. But the fact that I don't even think Banton's going to be in the rotation, yet he was someone who was putting up good numbers last season, shows you just how many guys are out and how hard it is to pay attention to that. And that goes for also Dwop Reith. Rookie last season, Reith was really good. And now he's the fourth string center. He's already 28. He averaged 9 and 4 with 0.6 blocks. He shot 46 and 74. He was pretty good. He played 18 minutes a night as a backup center, but he's not going to play either. Unless they trade Ayton and Williams away. He just will not play. So these guys that you thought like, oh, mate, there's some value here. They're putting up. Context is so important. Because they were getting minutes because of everyone being out, because of weird situations. They didn't flash enough to suggest that they will be locked into a role. And I think Reith is a really good example. And the man's already 28. He's already in almost the over-the-hill phase of this show. I'm over the hill, clearly. But that brings us to the end of talking about the Portland Trailblazers. Recap. It's really possible that there is no top 50 players on this team. I would be okay with looking at Ayton in the top 50 if I didn't think that this team was going to shut things down or that he was going to be in a spot where he might be traded or limited because of guys behind him. Same with Simons, although he's got quite a lot of limitations. I'm not touching Jerami Grant in the top 100. I love getting Scoot late. I'm okay with getting Sharpe late, but not around 100. And then if you wanted to stream in like a Klingon for blocks, but does he play 17 minutes a night maybe? And then you got to be really cautious about what they do with Avdia. Does he start? Is he the 6th offensive option down the pecking order? Probably. When does he handle the ball? Does his defense generate defensive stats? Not really. So, this is a team with players that are good. Ayton, Simons, Scoot, Grant, Sharpe, Avdia, maybe Klingon, Williams, Thibault. These all do their little bits and pieces in their role, but a bad coach and a weird fit and just too many guys in the wrong spots. And that's going to be a problem for fantasy leagues. I hope that you don't have problems in your fantasy league, but hitting a thumb here might help you. And leave your comments and subscribe. Get us to 100K this season. I hope we get that many subs on YouTube, but probably not. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.